So today I want to talk about the importance of initiation, and it seems from reading Shastra that initiation is essential, that everyone should take it. And that's why we tend to push devotees. When are you going to get initiated? You should get initiated, and so forth. And I want to discuss that. Is that actually what our Shastra says? Can you be Krishna conscious if you're not initiated? What does it really mean to be initiated? So let's look at the life of a devotee who has taken shelter of a guru, who's chanting 16 rounds and following the 4 principles, and doing service under the guidance of that guru, under the guidance of ISKCON, under the guidance of Srila Prabhupada, who is not initiated. What is their position, and how is their position different from someone who takes initiation? And then we can ask the question, who's better off, the person who's following that guru perfectly, who's not initiated, or the person who sat in the initiation ceremony, but is not chanting 16 rounds, maybe chanting 8, not following all the principles, maybe 3, maybe 3.5, and not really engaged in the service of the guru. And then what to speak of the person who took initiation, who never really had faith in the guru. And when we look at that, we say that the person who is following the guru with the most faith, the most dedication, the most adherence, and doing the most service for the guru is best situated amongst all 3, even if not initiated. And why would I say that? Because Prabhupada said that the real connection with the guru is when we surrender. And the real connection is based on faith. And so if I don't have faith and I accept initiation, it doesn't mean anything. If I'm not surrendered and I accept initiation, it's not that the ceremony is going to change anything, because the internal environment, my faith, my dedication, my consciousness, my love towards the guru, is the basis of the relationship. And that's what the initiation is supposed to be based on. But if it's not based on that, the initiation doesn't mean anything. And so Srila Bhaktisiddhanta had disciples who, after initiation, left. And then when he was informed, he said they were never my disciples, meaning they never had that faith, they never had that dedication. And then Prabhupada said, the real thing is the connection with the guru, the faith, the surrender, and so forth. And the initiation is a formality. He said, my touch is just a formality, but the real thing, the real connection has already been made. But then you might say, but the Shastra says, unless you're initiated, you can't go back to Godhead. And that initiation that the Shastra is talking about, Diksha, is what we call second initiation, because previously the initiation wasn't Harinam and then second, it was 1. So when they talk about Diksha, it's talking about that initiation, because there were times in the past where there was no Harinam initiation, so the only Diksha was what we call second initiation. And unless people were second initiated, if they had no Harinam, they had nothing, and so they had to get those mantras and then do the deity worship to be purified. But now let's look at the life of an average devotee, especially those who live in a temple or those who take it seriously. They start to chant 16 rounds and follow the principles. So they're living the life of an initiated devotee. They connect with the guru. They take shelter of that guru. They're basically connected before the initiation, and so the initiation is a formality. So then this brings up the question, why would we push people to get initiated before they're ready? Or why would we even push people who are chanting 16 rounds, following the principles, to get initiated, unless we're certain, and they're certain, that they're going to maintain that? Because what actually is happening at initiation, aside from getting a name, that's the only new thing that's happening, because you have the neck beads, you have the tilak, you have the holy name, you have your guru. So the one thing that's being added at that first initiation is you get a spiritual name. Yes, you should have a spiritual name. It helps you remember Krishna. It helps others remember Krishna. But prior to that initiation, you have the most important thing, which is the holy name. And that holy name is going to get you back to Godhead. That's what's important in Kali Yuga. The Gayatri or Pancharatriki mantras are not essential for Kali Yuga. They're helpful. They help us become purified so we can chant more purely. But in and of themselves, that's not what is going to liberate us. It's the holy name that's going to liberate us. So we already have that before initiation. So there's no need to push people who don't feel 100% ready. And there's no need to tell people, look, if you don't get initiation, when you die, who knows where you're going to go. And there's a story where one man did not have initiation, and he was following, and everyone was pushing him. And he went to Prabhupada and said, I don't feel like getting initiated. I don't know why he felt that way. And Prabhupada said, it's not a problem. And this man was doing construction. He was building homes for the devotees. And Prabhupada said, as you are building homes for these devotees, Krishna is building your home in the spiritual world. So Prabhupada was saying, by that person's seva, by that person's dedication and adherence to Srila Prabhupada's service and instructions, he was going back home, back to Godhead. So we have a situation in ISKCON where we've placed such extreme importance on the initiation ceremony process that sometimes we push people into that who shouldn't be pushed into it, or we make people feel that they have to become ready before they're actually ready, and we make them feel that, well, your spiritual life will not be of value if you don't have this. But that is not entirely true. Yes, we should encourage initiation when a person is ready, but we shouldn't encourage it as this is some magic bullet that once you get it, you're going back home, back to Godhead. And so many people got it and they didn't keep it. When you take initiation, you're formalizing your vow. Before that, you've never formalized it publicly, or generally, you haven't formalized it even to your guru, unless your guru has asked you before initiation to formalize it. At this point, you formalize it. And one thing Prabhupada said that we should remember, at least we should consider before initiation, Prabhupada was very hard on people who took initiation who didn't follow their vows. He wasn't hard on people who didn't follow their vows, who didn't take initiation if they weren't living in the temple. Living in the temple, you must follow those vows, 4 principles, 16 rounds. But for people who took initiation, who promised, he was very hard on them. When they weren't following, when they were making excuses, I'm weak, I was young, I didn't know, when I was getting initiated and so forth, how difficult it would be, whatever the excuse was. And Prabhupada said, why did you take those vows if you weren't going to follow them? So I think that's the big thing. When should I take initiation? Just because I'm connected to my guru, just because I love him and I want to formalize it? Not entirely. Also consider that when you make those vows, that means you're going to follow them. You are making that to your guru in a public environment. You're in a sense making that vow to everyone who is present. You're in front of the deities. Vishnu is the fire. Vishnu is consuming your offerings. This is one of the reasons we make vows, is we want to dedicate ourselves. We want to force ourselves to do something, but the point is, Shastra says, don't make a vow unless you're convinced you can follow it, because then it becomes an offense. So, more can be said about Guru Tattva and initiation, but I just wanted to cover this point for now. Hare Krishna.